Welcome to this introduction to the MatchPoint Form Web part and the data adapter concept. The Form Web part can be used to create custom input forms. It provides a number of field types with very advanced features. Data adapters allow you to use a Form Web part for viewing, editing, and creating items. You can access the following items: SharePoint list items, database records, or any other data source by using a custom data adapter. In our example, we will configure a custom edit form for this standard SharePoint task list. We start by navigating to the default edit form and closing the SharePoint list form web part. We add a MatchPoint Form Web part to the page and access the configuration editor. Within the configuration of the Form Web part, we first define some general parameters. For instance, we can specify whether we want the form to be in read-only or display mode, what should happen when the user closes the form, or what label to use for the Save button. Next, we add the data adapter to the form. Since we are editing SharePoint list items, we select the list item data adapter and add it to the configuration. Now we can select whether we want to create a new item or use the current item for viewing or editing. Alternatively, we could use the MatchPoint expression to aggregate a list item, for example, by referring to a query string parameter. In addition to the list item, we can also configure the URL of the SharePoint list. This allows us to use metadata field references for any column on that list. We configure which credentials are used for accessing the list item, and we can select actions that should be available within the ribbon of our form. As our final configuration step, we have to configure input fields for the form. MatchPoint provides a number of field types we can use. First, we are going to add a text field for the title property. We have to specify the name parameter. As you can see, the display mode for any field can be determined separately. Let's make the title field read-only, that way a title cannot be changed once a task has been created. We define the title parameter and we are ready for our next input field. We are going to use a field ref element to provide access to the status field. As you can see, MatchPoint automatically determines the correct field type, in this case, a choice field. We now add a date field for the due date property. Again, we use the name parameter to create a mapping to the corresponding column on the task list. We make the field required and define a title. Additionally, we would like to implement validation for this field, so we add a validator element. Here we can use the MatchPoint expression mechanism to check that the due date is in the future. We specify a message that is displayed if the validation fails. Finally, we add our last input field to the form. We will use a person field to allow the users to assign a task. We define the name and the title parameters. Also, we specify a default value. We use the expression engine once more and use the current user as the assigned person. Now we are finished with the configuration of the form web part. We save the configuration and go back to the task list. If we access one of the task items within our list, you can see the new form with all of our configurations. The title field is read-only. The status field provides the standard choices of the task list. The due date cannot be in the past, and the current user is suggested for the assigned to field. Of course, we could now continue with the customization of this task list and create even more complex input forms. With the MatchPoint Form Web part, you can create customized input forms and make use of functionality such as the MatchPoint expression engine. This allows you to configure advanced forms with calculated fields, default values, or dynamic visibility conditions. You can even create field dependencies by connecting different fields to each other. The data adapter concept makes full use of the MatchPoint Form Web part. You can access various data sources like SharePoint lists, external databases including SharePoint Business Data Connectivity Services, or any other data source by using a custom data adapter. Data adapters can be configured to access items by using the expression engine. You can configure impersonated access as well as custom actions within the SharePoint ribbon.